Okay, so now we're on page 27, worksheet 2-7, last page. Um, this is the toughest part because now we're telling you not only do you have to decide between preterite and imperfect, but you also have to decide whether you should put neither and use the imperfect with the past participle. You'll notice that it's the imperfect with the past participle here. So now I'm given a story about I'm Hermione, and I'm making a list of the things that I did when I went to the National Art Museum. So we'll start at the beginning. Blank las 11:30, or las 11 de la mañana, which means 11 a.m., which means I've got both of my trusty rusty helper sheets here. So I'm talking about time, which means imperfect. So eran. Next up, el guía de museo. Hold on one second. Hopefully that's a little bit easier to see. All right, so el guía de museo ya blank en su oficina. So the museum guide was already something. First of all, what does ya remind you of? Hopefully of the page we just did, which indicates that he was already somethinged. So he was already seated. So we're going to use estaba. And since I'm describing el guía, it's going to be sentado with an O on the end. The guide told me that something about Manuel, and his name was, or he called himself. So if I call myself something, that's well, lots of things. It's a description, but it's definitely a repeated action. I repeatedly call myself Tara or Manuel or Herminia, sorry. So anyway, let's say se llamaba Manuel. Manuel, and I knew that that was going to be what was going on, was because the next sentence was about Manuel. Now that he's told me his name, I can call him Manuel. Manuel me something about the paintings while we both, nosotros dos is how you say we both, okay? So we both were walking, right? We were constantly walking through the museum, so that would be caminaba. This one is habló. He told me about a lot of things because he told me and now it's done with. I also could see this being hablaba. He was telling me about things while we were walking. Either one of those would work, honestly. So I'm not super convinced that that's the only right answer. I know that you could say me hablaba. All right. Al final del día, yo something. At the end of the day, I what? And do y'all know what cansar means? Does it look familiar? Does it look at all like cansado, which means tired? So that, first of all, is your first hint. Second of all, I can say cansé, but that would be weird. I got tired, and it's more like a phrase that you would use, like I just got tired of it. I'm done. So the best thing to say is I was tired. Estaba cansada. And it's cansada because my name is Hermione. All right, I thought it was going to be a Harry Potter story. It was not. All right, next section. Hopefully that vacuum outside isn't bothering y'all too much. All right, so I still got my little helper notes here. And I'm going to say, el viernes pasado. Y'all can't really see my helper notes, so they're not going to help you. Let's see. All right. Okay, you can see part of them. This is awkward and slow. Sorry. Okay. El viernes pasado, mi hermana y yo no blank nada que hacer. So last Friday, my sister and I didn't have anything to do. I know that this sounds like it should be preterite, but it's actually imperfect. We didn't have anything to do. Like, we had nothing to do all day, It was a constant problem. And honestly, I'm setting the background for this whole story. Okay? So it's imperfect. No blank muy buen tiempo. That's an easy one. It wasn't good weather. Y por eso, and for that reason, nosotros blank ir al Museo de Arte. And for that reason, we decided to go to the art museum. Again, decided seems like a pretty permanent and preterite word, and it should. So it's decidimos. Our art teacher or professor nos dijo, told us that a lot of artworks that were interesting there. So he told us that there were a lot of artwork located there, basically. So it's going to be había. The next one, something las 9:10 cuando llegamos al museo, or y el museo. So again, 9:10 is a time, which means imperfect, which means eran. And something about abrir. What does abrir mean? Open. And what does ya help us think of? Estaba abierta. Because otherwise, I would say it was 9:10 when we got there, and the museum already opened, which sounds right, but that's not. It's not right. It was already open, or the museum had already opened, but just already opened is not correct grammatically. And then was already opening doesn't really make sense. All right. So abierta. Sorry, I kind of jacked that up with my writing here. Abierta. Hopefully, oops, you can't see that either. Abierta. Okay. Nosotros, we entered the museum. How many times did we enter? One time. There's a beginning and an end. So entramos. Next up, and we started to look at the collection. How many times did you start something? Usually just the once. So empezamos. Mi hermana y yo blank a unas personas que blank parar delante de una escultura abstracta. So my sister and I saw, right? Not were seeing, but saw. So there's a beginning and an ending to that action. So vimos. And then we saw people, something about sitting in front of the abstract sculpture. So, or to stop, excuse me, not sitting, standing. But something about stop. So we saw some people stop in front of a sculpture, or estaban paradas. And here's the big deal here. The verb parar means to stop. If I were going to use it, I wouldn't use the K there, but also this is a vocabulary word for you, and it means standing. It goes with estar. So estaban parados. Okay, if you see that on your test, it's going to be a participle. Okay? Después de pasar 2 horas en las salas de museo, le something a mi hermana que blank hambre. After spending 2 hours in the different like gallery rooms of the museum, I something about said to my sister. How many times did I say it? One time. Le dije a mi hermana que something hambre. Hambre is a physical condition, which is a description. Oh, I didn't show you. A description, which is imperfect, which is tenía. Ella también quería comer. Same thing. She wanted to eat. That's a description. It was another physical description of what she needed or an emotion. It's not really an emotion. I'd call it a condition. Conditions are going to fall under imperfect also. If only I can figure out another letter to shove into water loads. So she also wanted to eat, and we went to the restaurant. How many times did we go? One time. Now, I could say íbamos al restaurante cuando vimos a mi papá. Okay, great. But unless I'm walking to the restaurant and then I see my dad, otherwise we just went to the restaurant. It happened one time. Después, we visited the bookstore of the museum. And how many times did we visit it? One time. So visitamos. And that is it.